Hey everyone, and welcome to World Heritage Journey. Today we're at the Archaeological Site of Mystras in southern Greece. Now this is a medieval fortress and city on top of a hill overlooking ancient Sparta. It was built in the middle of the 13th century by Frankish knights returning home after the Fourth Crusade. They had recently occupied these lands and wanted to consolidate their new holdings. There's some really impressive stuff to see, including a citadel and many churches, so let's have a look. So we've moved to the top of the citadel, right at the top of the castle, and it's just absolutely incredible up here. We're over 600 meters above the valley floor, and it just looks completely impregnable from here. Now the castle was founded, as I said, in 1248 by a Frankish lord named William II of Villarduin. But he'd only completed it for 2 years before he was captured in battle and forced to cede his stronghold back to the Byzantines. And for the next few centuries, it was just traded back and forth and captured and recaptured. Byzantines, Ottoman Turks, Venetians as well, and many, many others. So it was a really, really interesting history. But the whole time a city was growing at the base of the castle, and when an Albanian army burned the castle in 1770, there was something like 40,000 inhabitants down there. During the Greek War of Independence in the 1830s, the city was eventually abandoned along with the castle, and most of the inhabitants moved to the new city of Sparta in the distance behind me. We've moved down now into the lower city, and it's just a real fascinating contrast here because you have ruined buildings like the ones you can see around me, and then of course you have plenty of churches like this one over here. Now the churches are actually in quite good condition, and most of them date back to around the 13th to 15th century, and they were surrounded by monasteries as well. Of course, usually the monastery buildings have been destroyed. But it's just really interesting to see the contrast between the preserved buildings and the ones that aren't preserved. It's almost like something from Lord of the Rings or something like that. It's really, really fascinating. Now, in addition to the incredible citadel here, there's also a lot of very impressive churches, and one of the most impressive ones of those is the Hagia Sophia that you can see behind me. Now, of course, it's not the Hagia Sophia that we know from Istanbul, it just happens to have the same name because, of course, it's dedicated to Saint Sophia. Now, it was built in the latter half of the 14th century, and it was actually the palace church, and it was also part of a monastery that's long since disappeared. What I find incredible though is that inside there's some Byzantine frescoes that are still preserved quite well. And so the building behind me is the palace, which sits roughly in the middle between the upper city and the lower city, and it's heavily defended with its own walls and gates. Now it looks in pretty good condition, though I'm not sure how much of it has been restored and how much of it is original. Unfortunately, we can't go any closer because it's actually roped off, and I'm not really sure why. But it is really interesting to see, and I've really had an interesting day as well because I've really enjoyed checking out all the ruins and the churches as well. It's been really, really interesting. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought, and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more from the World Heritage Journey. I'll see you next time.